Hey, my name is Jason. I'm a registered polysomnographic technologist, RPSGT, or just a sleep tech. Just wanted to do a video showing what the relationship is between mask leaking, mouth leaking, and your overall CPAP therapy experience, or how well it's going for you. So you may or may not know mask leaking or mouth leaking is pretty detrimental to your CPAP therapy. So if you have a mask on your face like this and you're asleep and you open your mouth, that's going to effectively drop the pressure. I'll do a little experiment with that here in a bit. So if you're waking up with, if you're using a nasal mask or even a full face mask, if you wake up with a really dry mouth and you're even while using heated humidity, that's a pretty good sign that you have a mouth leak. If you wake up and you feel leaking around the sides of your mask, and it's, that may or may not be a bad leak, it's hard to say. Typically there's some numbers that are standard. Around 25 liters per minute of leak is fairly standard for most masks, although when you start to increase the pressure, that leak increases. The reason it increases is you have basically two different types of leak. You have an expected leak, and so the expected leak, I don't know if you can see on this mask, around here on all masks they have some kind of a diffuser, and that's so when you're breathing air out, when you're exhaling, that air is getting back out into the atmosphere, and then more air is coming in through the CPAP. This is so you're not rebreathing the CO2, you don't wake up with a headache. That's a good thing. So that's called expected leak. Then you have unexpected leak. Unexpected leak is things like mouth leaking, things like mask leaking. Things like when you take your mask off and throw it across the room. Any type of leak that you don't want is an unexpected leak. So I have a little experiment I want to show you. What it has to do with is increasing the pressure, and at some point the CPAP, if you have a leak, it's constantly making calculations to try to keep you at your pressure. So if you're on 10 centimeters of water pressure, the machine, if you have a huge mouth leak, it's going to increase to try to make up that difference. If your mouth opens more and it keeps leaking, it's just basically going to be an endless cycle. It's going to keep turning up, more air is going to leak out, it's never going to be able to catch up. All right, so this is my setup. On the screen, on my computer screen here, let's see, this is my program, it's linked up. So right now you can see it says CPAP, it's set for 4, and you can see on the far right hand side it says leak 11. That's going to be okay for right now because we're not going to turn up the pressure quite yet. I just want you to see what that is. Right here, this is going to be our person. This will be our fake person. I have a couple holes here in the front. That's so that we have a little bit of air leaking out. I may have to add more holes later, but this is basically what you want your airway to look like, nice and big. Another thing that we have is up here, it's blowing at 4 centimeters of water pressure. It tells you right here what it's supposed to be, and then up here it tells you what it actually is. And that's the actual pressure that's being delivered to our fake lung here. All right, so let's go ahead. We're gonna add apnea, and that's gonna be a hammer. So if this is the upper airway nice and big and full and open, then this is apnea. This guy's got a huge uvula. And so technically, even though CPAP is turned on, this is not CPAP, right? They have nothing on, they have apnea. They're trying to breathe and it's just completely collapsing. Okay, so it's completely collapsed. So let's go ahead and increase the pressure. We're gonna pretend like we said, no CPAP is on right now. And now we're gonna increase the pressure a little bit. Okay, so what happened here, you can see that when we increase the pressure, this went up a little bit. Now it's reporting the leak to be 18, and we're on 5 centimeters of water pressure. That's probably actually pretty accurate at that pressure in the lab, so maybe we have the holes on the front of the bag here correct. So we're gonna go ahead and increase more. We're trying to get this person to their therapeutic level. So now it's at 6. You can see there's still a collapse in the airway here. It's still dipping down a little bit. So let's go ahead and increase to 7. Again, better, the airway is protected. Maybe this person's still suffocating just a little bit, it's hard to say. Leak is at 18. Looking at our machine over here, it's supposed to be blowing 7, and it is blowing 7. So supposed to be, and what it actually is blowing. So everything's still really good here. Basically no leaks to speak of at all. So increasing to 8. Whoops. It's starting to fall off. Okay, leak is at 20. We're going to increase to 9. And I would have to say that that is probably pretty well protected. I'm actually going to increase it to 10. 10 is kind of an average pressure if you were to force me to pick an average pressure. And that puts our leak up at 20. You can see here that because of the oscillating of the bag, like a person breathing, it's always in this constant state of trying to keep it at 10. So it's bouncing around a little bit, which is totally normal, completely normal. Okay, right now our leak is perfect. So we have a leak at 23. So these holes here, this is an ideal situation. This person has CPAP on and they basically have no mouth leak. So I'm gonna take our good friend, Mr. Nail, and I'm gonna puncture a couple holes in here so you can see kind of what happens. And okay, wait, our leak just jumped up to 28, 29, 30. So now with a little bit of a leak, we'd probably call this maybe a 5 liters per minute excessive leak, but you can see that our pressure being delivered is still okay. So let's go ahead and add a little bit more of a leak. Doesn't matter whether this is a mouth leak or mask leak, it's still a leak. It's still not great. Okay, so what we're trying to do is we're trying to stress the system here and see if we can't get it. Okay, so now we have a leak of 40. We're trying to stress the system and see where CPAP cannot keep up. You can see right there, everything's all hunky-dory. It's still being able, it's catching up to that leak and it's keeping it pressurized. So we're cool. Let's add more leaks. Add a ton of leaks. All right, so now we have our leak has jumped up almost to, it's going up to 80, 85. Okay, now in a lab, that would be considered like the worst leak ever. Okay, so now we can see that the machine is supposed to be blowing at 10, but it can't keep up. There's too much leak. It's actually only getting 9.2, 9.3. But now it just cut off. So at some point you can even see visually that the hammer, our obstruction, is not able to keep the bag open like it had been. Before it was kind of like this, now it's sagging. And so some type of hypopnea or some type of like RIRAs may be able to persist. Now that's not exactly 100% accurate, but that's kind of gives you the gist of it. At some point, the mouth leaking or the mask leaking is too much for the machine to keep up with. And so if you need to be at this pressure, because of the leak, you're only getting at this pressure. And so you need to do something about the mouth leak. So things you need to do are just, one, obviously make sure you have a proper fitting mask. But as far as the mouth leak, there's some steps you can take. And that is make sure, again, you have a proper fitting mask. Make sure you're putting it on correctly. Make sure you can try a chin strap. Those help encourage to keep your mouth closed. You can also try heated humidity. Sometimes a dry mouth causes you to open your mouth at night when it gets real dry. So make sure heated humidity is being used. Another thing you can try is tongue to the roof of your mouth when you're trying to sleep. Swallow, and for some people that seems to help seal it closed. Another thing you can try, well, I already said chin strap. Another thing you can try is a soft cervical collar that goes around. That kind of keeps your mouth up and closed. And then lastly, a thing you can try that has helped some people is a double-sided mouth guard. So it's just one of those boil and bite things. It kind of encourages your mouth to stay closed. You can also use all of those in conjunction, up to you. At some point it just kind of gets to be, you have too much stuff on your head. So that's it. Hopefully that kind of, you understand that a leak isn't a great thing. If you have a real dry mouth, dry tongue in the morning, it's a sure sign of a mouth leak. And so this is going to be of great interest to you and important if you want your CPAP therapy to go well. Thanks, I hope this helps. Please join my website, freecpapadvice.com/forum. And then if you just want to look at informational material, freecpapadvice.com. And that's it.